Hey, welcome back. In the last episode, we added text inputs to create new artists and songs to have some interactive elements. We saw how easy it was to trigger the user action using the actions helper in Ember and handling the event in the route without even referring to the DOM. In this episode, we are going to build a custom widget to rate the songs by clicking on the appropriate star beside it, just as you would do this in, say, iTunes. We are going to implement this functionality by introducing an Ember view. So views in Ember are responsible for transforming browser events into user intent. To give you an example, when someone types a name here and clicks the button, what he actually wants to achieve is to add a new artist. Actually, we have already dealt with views before. Whenever we used the link to helper and the input helper, these under the hood created views. So to prove that, I just look up all the Ember views, and if you take a look, that link up there, or all the artist links, and also the input fields are Ember views. It was just done under the hood. So in this case, however, we are going to create our own view. So first, let's pretend that our view is already usable, and let's insert it here. So the way to do that is to use the view helper, then provide the name of the view as the first parameter, app.starRating, and then any options we might want to pass to the view. So in this case, let's say we want to pass max rating, and that is going to be the number of stars that need to be drawn. Okay, when we refresh, we receive an error because the view is not yet defined. So let's remedy that. App star rating. So views in Ember extend the base class, which is ember.view. Yep, and I need to provide a template name, and so Ember will look for that template to render the view. So as a first step, let's just add some simple content inside that to see if that works. Star rating. So views have access to their context, and if you take a look at how or where we use that view, it turns out that the context is a song object, and the song object has a rating. So just displaying the rating here should work. Let's refresh, and it did work. So now we need to build the view. This time I'm not going to code it live because it's too much code and too easy to make an error in. So I pasted it in, and let me explain the details. The first thing that was added is class names, which is just a list of classes that is going to be appended to the view wrapper. So this is going to be CSS classes on the view wrapper. The next thing is I defined an alias for the rating. So I already mentioned that the rating comes from the context. I just defined a simple rating property to refer to it more easily. And then I defined two more aliases. Full stars is the number of full stars that need to be drawn, and that is equal to the rating property. And num stars is just an alias for the max rating. So that's how many stars I need to draw in total. And the meat of this view is the stars property, which in turn uses star range function, and for each position it's going to contain a value, so 1 2 3 4 5, and whether the star is full or empty, and that's all. So in our case, we are going to have 5 stars. Now let's see how to use this in the template. So let's look at the actual HTML that we have to render from the template. We see that there is a wrapping div, and then inside there are some span elements, and the only difference between these is that the full stars have a different class, glyph icon star, as opposed to glyph icon star empty. So the wrapping div is in fact catered for with this class names definition. So the div is going to create by default a div with this class name. So we have to render from our template, we have to render the content of this div, the span elements themselves. So we had said previously that we will use this stars property, and whenever I want to use a view property from the template, I have to explicitly say so with view dot and then the property name, view stars in this case. And so inside that we are going to render span elements. Now another new thing is that we need to conditionally create the value of an HTML attribute, in this case class. And when I want to do this, I need the bind attribute helper bind attr, and then the attribute name, and then a notation. So depending on the full property, I either want a glyph icon star or a glyph icon star empty. And the notation to do that is to first give the property name, and if that property is truthy, then glyph icon star, and if it's not truthy, then the second option is glyph icon star empty. Now I need to add the 2 fix CSS classes, and whenever I want to mix fix classes with dynamic classes, I need to prefix the fix ones with colon. So let me go back. And add these 2 classes here. Okay. And I want also a data attribute, so that when the user clicks on one of the stars, I get the value in that attribute. Let's call it data rating. And since this is dynamic too, I need to use the bind attribute helper again. And I wrote a rating here because that's what I used here. So the content of the view stars array is objects, each with a full and the rating property. I close the span element and then I reload the page. The stars appear correctly. What's lacking from our view to be complete is to handle user interaction. So in this case, to set the rating for the song when one of the stars is clicked. So we will have to use the action helper that we had seen in the previous episode. And let's call that action set rating. Now, previously, I had done event handling on the route, but I'm going to choose a different option here. And the reason for this is that I'm not going to have the necessary context to on the route. Namely, I'm not going to know which song was clicked on, since that's done inside an each loop. So I'm going to handle that event on the view. And when I choose to do that, I need to explicitly say so with this target option. So target equals view. And on the view, I'll have to define the same actions object, and inside that a set rating function. And now here I'll have access to the event object, and I will have to fetch the data rating attribute from that and set the rating property. So Ember $ is an alias for jQuery. Event.target is the star that was clicked on, and to get its data rating attribute, it's just that. Let's call it new rating. And now I can actually set the computed property that I defined here. And since this is an alias to the rating of the context, it will just work. So although this is a computed property, Ember.js will do the right thing and set that property of the original object. So set rating, new rating. That's it. And to be able to verify that this works, I'm going to put the rating here. Oh, I messed up something. Yep, I see. Okay, so now we see the rating beside the songs. And if I click here, it just seems to work perfectly. We have created a view to display the star ratings for the songs. We have seen how to insert a view in our templates and use its properties. We use the new helper, bindAttr, to dynamically update HTML attributes. At the end, we have enabled our view to set the rating of the song by way of clicking on the stars. This user action was handled not on the route, but on the view itself. In the next episode, I'm going to introduce the one missing piece that I have briefly mentioned, but didn't need to explicitly deal with so far: controllers.